So the Jimmy Dore show has been vindicated. We were against vaccine mandates for many reasons, but big one was there was no science behind them. We were onto it very quickly. We had Dr. Robert Malone on our show, which told us that the vaccine was a leaky vaccine, which means that it's not sterilizing, which means that even if you're vaccinated, you can still transmit the virus. You can still contract the virus. And we were also told by Dr. Robert Malone, because it's a leaky vaccine, and those two things I just said are true, we're never, ever going to be able to ever vaccinate our way out of this pandemic. It will be here forever because it has animal hosts. And so I knew that like a year and a half before the rest of the country. And so I was against, and I was on scientific ground by opposing vaccine mandates. And now I had people come on my show and debate them. And it was obvious those people didn't know a fucking thing about anything about the science behind these new mRNA vaccines. They didn't know anything about them. And I did. Why? Because I had a reason to get informed about it, because I got vaccine injured. Now, if you want to see how they told you over and over again, by the way, according to YouTube, I can't say that the vaccine doesn't stop transmission or contraction. What I can say is that it slows. That's according to YouTube. So I have to give you.
So it slowly seeps into me.
So it slowly sleeps into you. It does slow the transmission and contraction. That's what YouTube says. That's not what Pfizer is saying right now, but YouTube is saying that, and that's the science. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not saying that.
Oh.
I'm telling you what here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what Joe Biden and all the assholes were telling you for a year.
We're not in a position where we think that any virus, including the Delta virus, which is much more transmissible and more deadly in terms of unvaccinated people, the various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Now that's the president of the United States on television on CNN saying that.
Wait,
that
look,
if you get this vaccination, you're not going to get COVID.
look how young and vibrant he looks saying that. And I was laughing at him then like, he sounds slow.
Now here's the head of the CDC, Dr. Rochelle Walensky. She's going to say the same thing.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real world data.
Now, I'm pretty sure she's 1,000% lying there. Now, I can't be sure, but I'm going to tell you, I'll show you why I think she's lying. The CDC director. Now, the CDC director I've made the remark that she sounds like a used car salesman every time she talks. And you know why? Because I'm pretty sure she's lying every time she talks. And she's completely captured. And so now let's go. So now we had the president of the United States. We had the head of the CDC. Now let's get the #1 news show host on television to tell you that same lie. Let's watch.
We know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus. The virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else.
Hey, I'm dumber than Jimmy Dore. How does that feel? I'm dumber than Jimmy Dore. Yeah, she has better hair, but
I was going to say,
dumber.
Almost the same haircut.
We have the same haircut.
A little darker, but
So now we had the #1 news show on television. That was Rachel Maddow during Russiagate. She was the #1 news show. She lied to you at the top of her lungs. We had the head of the CDC lying to you. We had the president of the United States lying to you. Who did that leave out? That leaves out Fauci. Let's listen to Fauci. Let's see if he tells the same lie.
Vaccines prevent getting infected, prevent getting sick, prevent your hospitalization.
That's what normal vaccines do. That's what vaccines have always done. Before they changed the definition, that's what vaccines did. Watch.
yeah.
Vaccines prevent getting infected, prevent getting sick, prevent your hospitalization.
So you heard them. So you heard them all say. So now the big thing that's going around is that they never said that. So that's why I'm showing you that first. And why am I showing you all of this? Because here's a member of the European Parliament, and he was interviewing, or he was questioning in the European Parliament. He was questioning Janine Small. She's Pfizer's president of international development markets. She was testifying before the European Union Parliament on Monday. This is last Monday, when she was asked this question by. So he's a Dutch member of Parliament, and let's watch what he has to say about his questioning of the Pfizer executive. Here's what he says, and then I'll show you the question.
If you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us.
Let me hear that again.
If you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial.
Boy, I bet that's exactly how Sweden worded that as a slogan, too.
Like kind of poster.
It's so IKEA basic, isn't it? Okay,
You're antisocial.
Here we go.
This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others.
Now, that's what people said who came on the show and debated me over mandates. They said we're supposed to do it for others because they were listening to propaganda and they weren't thinking critically, skeptically at all about what Big Pharma and the government were telling them. We were, because we were looking at other studies that contradicted everything the government and Big Pharma was saying. And so we knew they were lying at the time. Now, my comedian friends didn't look into it, so they didn't know that they were being lied to. And so what they did was repeat propaganda. They did it on this show. They do it on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok. They do it all the time. They're repeating propaganda from Big Pharma uncritically because they don't want to look at what's really going on.
Well, how are you going to get a guest spot on Gutsy if you...
That's right. So here we go. I'm going to start again.
If you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others. You do it for all of society. That's what I said. Today, this turned out to be complete nonsense. In a COVID hearing in the European Parliament, one of the Pfizer directors just admitted to me, at the time of introduction, the vaccine had never been tested on stopping the transmission of the virus. This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination.
And so let me just stop it one more time again and let everybody know that our mission at the show was not anti-vax. We encouraged everyone to get vaccinated who wanted one because it would protect them from serious illness or death. But what we were serious about was against the mandate for this very reason, because we knew this before this woman admitted it. We knew this.
So leaky doesn't mean it leaks out of you into society and also protects them, is what you're saying.
That's not what that means.
Okay.
People lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. Please watch the video until the end.
Voor u, mevrouw Small, heb ik de volgende vraag waar ik een duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunization before it's entered the market? No.
And she acts like, what are you, an asshole for asking me that? Of course we didn't.
How would we know something like that? We hadn't heard Rachel Maddow yet.
No, of course. Of course we didn't. She acts like you're the idiot for asking her this question. And who does that? The people who do that, she's a criminal liar. So she knows what he's asking. She knows it's a scandal. She knows this is a scandal. And she's trying to laugh it off. Because what else are they going to do? They're fucking criminals. You don't think they're criminals at Pfizer, at Moderna, at Johnson & Johnson? The people who got half the country hooked on fucking heroin and the other half, they put asbestos in your baby powder? These are the people you're trusting. That's what the face of a fucking criminal liar looks like. That's what they look like. These are the people who are the biggest criminals in the world. That's what they look like.
Liz Cheney's what they look like?
That's right.
We had to really move at the speed of science to really.
We had to move at the speed of science. How do you measure the speed of science, Kurt? I know that the speed of light is like 186 miles an hour, but
Right.
I don't know how to convert that to Fauci's.
It's based on Fauci vibrations to mask, no mask per minute.
So she's got more to say. Watch this.
Understand what is taking place in the market.
This is scandalous. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others. Now, this turned out to be a cheap lie. This should be exposed.
No, again, I'm not. Go ahead.
Well, the idea, are you supposed to say you are doing it for others? What's the thing you're supposed to say?
I don't know what you're supposed to say anymore, but I'll tell you this. I don't, just so I'm covered with YouTube, I don't agree. I'm just covering that he's saying this and that she said that.
Okay.
Everybody, vaccines totally stop everything.
It protects the guy next to you is what I was told,
Protects
and I choose to
everybody.
believe. No matter what some Dutch guy says.
The speed of science. You know, when you rush to get the result you want, even if it means cutting corners and fudging numbers, because you're not going to share your data anyway. That's what the speed of science means,
You gotta
Kurt.
cut some corners. Yeah.
So who will ever know? Who will ever know as long as some jerk-faced Dutch guy doesn't come along asking a bunch of questions?
I'm already
But before this guy comes along asking a bunch of questions, you've already banked $100 billion. So, fuck, it doesn't matter what happens now.
That's the speed of science.
Doesn't matter.
That's how quick you get it into the bank
That's
before
the speed of science.
Dutch
You
phase.
hide the truth for a year and a half. You get $100 billion into your coffers. That's the speed of science. That is the speed of science. So,
If you don't get vaccinated,
okay, so now I want to show you how, this is how my friend John Campbell, when I say my friend, he won't talk to me, but, or return my emails, but he's like a fatherly friend figure for me in my life. So, and I would just like to say hi. I watch you every day. Love you. And I wish you would put out more videos. He only even put one out every day. Anyway, here's what he had to say about this revelation.
Small. Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping the immunisation before it entered the market? No. And they're the words, she said the word no. Now, this is my interpretation of this because this is only me.
This is how he interprets her saying, no, we didn't do it. We didn't look into if it stopped transmission. This is how he interprets that answer.
COVID Pfizer vaccine was not tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market.
It was not even tested. Not that they tested it and the numbers weren't as good as they liked and they suppressed them. They didn't even test that part.
It's science speed. It's off in the horizon.
The science jet is going right over the tests.
Looks like the science jet went over your head, Jimmy.
Yes. So this is, by the way, this is also called doing my own research, which is shunned by Democrats. Here we go.
This was not done before the vaccine entered general rollout, despite us being assured that everything, all the normal stages were carried out.
So we were told, no, they did all the normal stages of that thing to make sure this was okay. We were told that. We were reassured over and over again. And now it takes a member of European Parliament, a Dutch guy, to get the absolute answer. Why wasn't this question asked before? Why wouldn't Anderson Cooper or Dr. Sanjay Gupta ask Fauci about this? Why wasn't anybody asked about this before? You're telling me nobody was fucking asked this question before?
Brought to you by Pfizer?
Brought to you by Pfizer. That's why. Okay. Kurt just gave us the answer why. That's why. Because those people are brought to you by Pfizer. And if I had that question, people would call me anti-vax. Here we go.
They would be for any new product. And yet it turns out now, we know however long it is now later, 2 years later or whatever, that this wasn't done. This really is, I think this is really quite scandalous. And I certainly feel personally let down by it. I'm sure a lot of you do. Ms. Small, again, we had to really move at the speed of science. Now, what I'd like to do now is pause and explain to you exactly what the speed of science means.
What do you think he's going to say? Do you think he's going to use the F word?
I haven't got a flipping clue. I do.
I haven't got a flipping clue what that means.
This is like a marketing term.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'll back it up so we can hear him say it again.
The speed of science means. I haven't got a flipping clue. I do know not what it is. It's just words without meaning. The speed of science. It's just words without meaning. What does that mean? What's that supposed to mean? What's it supposed to convey? Just has no meaning to me. So unless I'm a bit stupid, of course. If Miss Moore wants to come on the channel and explain it, then that's absolutely fine, of course. Maybe I'm just being a bit thick here and I don't understand what the speed of science is. But
I know what it is.
I've done.
A bunch of lawyers and whatever prepped her for that thing and said, of course we didn't know. We move at the speed of science. And then that'll be in the paper if the story goes out.
That's right.
And you're like, oh, dude, the speed of science.
You got to cut him some slack there. Where we get the speed of science?
I'm wondering, because this is Dutch, but I want to hear like who parrots that term, the speed of science. Like, do you think Colbert can make it all the way up to Colbert?
Oh, of course. But there are already people on Twitter, like you'll say, hey, they lied about this stuff. And they'll go, hey, but nobody really knew what was happening. No, that's not. No, they were lying. They didn't make mistakes. That when someone lies, it's a lie. And if someone makes a mistake, it's a mistake. These weren't mistakes.
Well, if Trump did it, it would be bad. He did do it.
All right, here we go.
2 science degrees and a research degree. And I've never heard the term. So anyway, we need to learn new things.
He's got 2 science degrees and a research degree, and he's never heard the term.
How long did it take him to get them? Then he's got his answer.
It takes a while for that term to make its way to you. That's all. The speed of science is slow.
I've been doing science since I was 18. From that point of view, we had to do everything at risk. Now, I'd like to explain to you what everything at risk means now. And again, I can't because I don't know what it means.
Remember, she said that we have to do everything at risk. I didn't show it, but it's. And he's like, "What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything."
Yeah, well, what risk? You can't be sued.
Yeah.
What these words mean? I simply don't know what the words mean. I think Dr. Barola, chief executive of Pfizer, of course. Now, these bits are just from a popular news outlet, so I'm not going to spend too much on them. He would turn around and say to himself, if not us, then who? Again, don't understand that word. Dr. Roll actually felt the importance of what was going on in the world. Well, good. Therefore, as a result of that, we actually spent $2 billion at the risk of self-funded money from Pfizer to be able to do the research and develop manufacture at risk to be able to make sure that we were in a position to be able to help with the pandemic, which, of course, is very noble of them. Now, Mr. Roos said this is scandalous. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others. Now, this turned out to be a cheap lie. This should be exposed. Now, I do stress that this is not me saying this. This is Mr. Roos saying this.
I have to stress also. So he's going to speak for me now when he reads the YouTube guidelines.
We'll just clarify the YouTube guidelines now. Because YouTube, we can't say anything that contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization. So I'm certainly not saying that.
No.
And efficacy of the vaccines, I'm not allowed to say content that claims that the vaccines do not reduce transmission or contraction of the disease.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that.
Does that Pfizer lady know her YouTube channel's a changer?
That Pfizer lady needs to call YouTube, but here we go.
And I'd just like to add that I think that Dr. Borla, and I do recognize a veterinarian as a doctor in charge of human drugs. And I don't think there's anything weird about that at all. And they should call him doctor in their statements as if his doctorate applies to this because it does.
So here we go.
Now, some of you might think that was implied by Mr. Roos and Miss Small, but that's entirely your conjecture. That's nothing to do with me. So let's just close by listening to the fuller version of the video now.
So that's it. So that's how he covered it. I gave you what the YouTube guidelines are. I'm saying that this guy from the Dutch guy is out of his mind, doesn't know what he's talking about. But it's as interesting as a news story. I have to cover it. So I'm covering it as a news story that the Pfizer woman admitted to something that if I said would get my channel taken down on YouTube. The Pfizer lady, that's executive from Pfizer, admitted something in front of the European Parliament that if I said on my own channel, YouTube would take it down.
So please, YouTube, we're trying to cover this at the speed of science. And
I'm trying to cover this at the speed of propaganda. And so... By the way, Pfizer to become a $100 billion behemoth next year, thanks to COVID-19 drug and vaccine analyst. There it is, $100 billion.
So it worked out.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Then here's the guy, the head of Pfizer. I just want to remind you how much of a liar.
Where's the doctor in front of his name?
It doesn't say. Why doesn't it say doctor?
Where's Dr.
He says
Alberto?
Excited to share that updated analysis from our phase 3 study with BioNTech also showed that our COVID-19 vaccine 100% effective in preventing COVID-19. Now, according to the executive,
South Africa?
According to the executive, they never even tested it to see if that was true.
So was each phase not even a different full mouse, or
who knows? So that said that the vaccine was 100% effective in preventing COVID-19 cases in South Africa. And then he says it again, 100%. But the lady at the European Parliament said that they never even tested to see if it did.
Well, in South Africa. So you have to really look at the South Africa numbers. You see?
I got you.
So goes South Africa, so goes the world. That was the science then.
That was. Here's a tweet by Pfizer. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has not been approved or licensed by the U.S. FDA, but it has been authorized for emergency use to prevent COVID-19 in individuals. That was from January 26, 2021. That's what they were saying. Now, they knew, by the way, this tweet is still up. So I don't know how Twitter works anymore, but I thought they took down medical misinformation. Maybe they don't anymore. Maybe they let you keep it up. Pfizer was saying this on January. That's Pfizer was saying this. Now the Pfizer is saying they didn't test it to see if this was true. That's what they're saying now. And now do you see why you should always be skeptical of government and big pharma when they tell you anything about anything, that you don't have faith in science, that you don't trust science? What do you do with science? You question science until they show you the evidence. That's how science works. You don't trust it. You don't shame people for doing their own research. You don't have faith in science, like some comedians say. Comedians will put it on in their stand-up. I have faith in science. They'll say that, not realizing how dumb that actually makes them sound. Because you don't trust science. You don't have faith in it. You question the shit out of it.
You know, you could be dumb, but the resentful thing I have is you're going to talk down to people that are smart enough to read. And you're going to, like, that's like the sticking point to me.
To me, it is too.
You go, I don't know nothing. I do what I say. Okay, but like,
yeah, if you want to go, hey, I let other people do my thinking for me when it comes to my health care, or taking experimental medical treatments, I let other people do my thinking for that. That what you're saying, that's one thing, but it's another thing to then go, you're an asshole if you actually do want to think about this.
One of these guys that read.
What are you going to start reading?
What are you, Huck Finn's dad in the book? What are you, better than me? You reading books?
Yeah, looks like we got ourselves a reader. Tell me, boy, what you reading for? So again, here it is. That's from Pfizer. It was authorized for emergency use to prevent COVID-19 in individuals 16 and over. That was from January 26, 2021. So there's no, and I've showed you the number one news host. I've showed you the president of the United States. I showed you the head of the CDC, and I showed you the head of the FDA. They all said this thing that now the Pfizer executive says is a lie. Initially, a small number of so-called breakthrough infections were reported, but by late 2021, it had become clear the vaccinated were still catching and spreading the virus. Health officials now say that although the vaccines do not completely prevent transmission, they reduce the severity of the disease and so ease the strain on hospitals. Breakthrough infections, that's actually a made-up marketing term they pulled out of their asses at the speed of science. Breakthrough infections, also known as infections.
Breakthrough infections.
Breakthrough cases, also known as cases. Jesus.
How did they get over the wall?
Earlier this year, White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci admitted that COVID vaccines don't protect overly well against infection.
Overly well? Is that a science term?
That's a science term.
How well do you think we're... Not overly well?
Overly well.
It's not crazy good.
They protect quite well against a severe disease. So you see how they shifted the narrative, even though they knew Pfizer didn't do any of the research that would say they could say that. In January, Dr. Borla, he's a veterinarian, he said 2 doses of the vaccine offered very limited protection, if any, against the Omicron variant. I understand your frustrations. I really do. That's Miss Small. She was the lady who just admitted all this.
I understand because I'm a lying piece of shit.
I understand your frustrations because we lied to everybody for years and you guys based your policy of mandatory vaccinations on people off of this lie. I get why you're upset about it, but nothing's going to happen to me and I'm super fucking rich because of this.
Well, I like this part the most here.
But I also hope at some point, somewhere, you also do appreciate what pharmaceutical companies have done in order to be able to roll out and deliver vaccines at such speed and scale. Well, I understand what pharmaceutical companies had to do. I wouldn't say I appreciate it. I understand what you had to do to get this vaccine to market. I certainly don't appreciate it.
I would have appreciated it more if you slowed the speed of science on a little bit.
Maybe slow it. The speed of science is fine. It's the speed of marketing. University, listen to this. So then they got some, listen in this article, listen to this guy, they quote, University of Sydney vaccine expert Professor Julie Leask told News.com Australia the claim that Mr. Ru's video heavily distorts the facts. It exaggerates our current situation with Omicron. And so this woman is, again, being paid somewhere by somebody.
Yeah, I was just about to like Google it. Like, I got to know what she
find out what kind of money she's getting. Because this person lacks integrity. She says it exaggerates our current situation with Omicron. That's not what we're fucking talking about, and you know it. We're not talking about our current situation with Omicron. And applies to the last year's situation with Alpha and Delta strains. Yeah, that's because that's what we're fucking talking about, you liar.
And speaking of exaggerating the situation with Omicron, you got some nerve saying that to anybody.
The trials had a primary. Listen to this. Listen to this language.
She's the chair advisor to the World Health Organization.
Ah, there you go.
Julie Leask.
The trials had a primary outcome of reducing risk of any disease and severe disease, but not transmission. Now, I already showed you all the people who said that it did stop. I showed you that. I showed you the tweet from Pfizer.
And also YouTube says it, and we agree
with it. And also
YouTube
says it. YouTube says it does stop transmission. So now is she lying? Now, I'm not supposed to be able to contradict somebody from the WHO, so I'm not doing that. I'm just showing out that Pfizer contradicted them.
Just so you know, Julie Leask, she co-wrote the communications from the WHO's COVID-19 vaccine safety plan.
Ah.
So where it says it never guaranteed.
So here, let me read it again. The trials had a primary outcome of reducing risk of any disease and severe disease, but not transmission. However, real-world studies rapidly looked at this too. It was logical there would be some reduction, but it was never guaranteed the vaccine would give sterilizing immunity. Boy, oh boy, it's just so weird that they were tweeting this stuff then from Pfizer, and the WHO didn't make Twitter take this down. You would think that the WHO, that woman from the WHO, would be mad at Pfizer and angry that they're tweeting things like this, which contradicts exactly what she's saying here, is that it was never guaranteed. So
they didn't guarantee. They just said it's approved to prevent it.
Oh.
I remember you got in trouble because you showed, was it the FDA or CDC?
The FDA.
The FDA, and it turned out that you were wrong.
Turns out they were wrong, and I was right. I know. So there she is saying that it's never. What are you, crazy?
Sterilizing immunity? What are you?
What?
That sounds
no. Hey, we're going to see you in Miami, West Palm Beach, Denver, Palm Springs, Austin, Burbank. That's right. The Saturday after Thanksgiving here in Burbank, and lots of dates in Los Angeles in December. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our tickets and join our premium program when you go there too.